My Heart and Other Black Holes, Jasmine, Warga. Here we go. Tuesday, March 12th, 26 days left. Music, especially classical music, especially Mozart's Requiem Mask in D minor, has kinetic energy. If you listen hard enough, you can see the violin's bow trembling above the strings, ready to ignite the notes, to set them in motion. And once the notes are in the air, they collide against one another. They spark. They burst. I spend a lot of time wondering what dying feels like, what dying sounds like. If I'll burst like those notes, let out my last cries of pain, and then go silent forever. Maybe I'll turn into a shadowy static that's barely there, if you just listen hard enough. And if I wasn't already fantasizing about dying, working at the phone bank at Tucker's marketing concepts would definitely do the trick. Lucky for them, they're off the hook in terms of liability because I have a pre-existing condition. Tucker's marketing concept is a telemarketing firm located at the basement of a dingy strip mall, and I'm the only employee who wasn't allowed to witness the fall of Rome. Several gray plastic tables that were probably bought in bulk from Costco are arranged in rows, and everyone gets a phone and a computer. The whole place smells like mold mixed with burnt coffee. Right now, we're conducting a survey for Paradise Vacations. They want to know what people value more on vacation. Quality of food and beverage or quality of hotel rooms. I dial the next number on my list. Miss Elena George, who lives on Mulberry Street. Hello? A scratchy voice answers the phone. Hello, Miss George. My name is Ozell, and I'm calling from Tucker's Marketing Concepts on behalf of Paradise Vacations. Do you have a moment to answer a few questions? I lack the sing-songy delivery of most of my fellow employees. I'm not exactly TMC's star worker. I told y'all to stop calling this number, Miss George says and hangs up on me. You can run, but you can't hide, Miss George. I take a note on my log. Looks like she's not interested in a 2-week vacation to Hawaii with a timeshare opportunity. Sorry, Paradise Vacations. Making more than one call without a break in between is too much for me, so I turn my face to my computer. The only perk of my job is having free unrestricted internet access. I double-click on the browser and log back onto the Smooth Passages, my favorite website of the movement. Azel, Mr. Palmer, my supervisor snaps, mispronouncing my name as always. It's Azel, not Azel, but he doesn't care. How many times do I have to tell you to stop playing around on your computer? He gestures to my call log. You still have a lot of numbers left. Mr. Palmer is the type of person who could change his whole life if he just once went to a different barber. He currently has a bowl cut, the type of mold typically found in gangly 6th grade boys. I want to tell him that a quill cut could really bring out his jawline, but I guess he's pretty happy with Mrs. Palmer, so he's in no rush to reinvent himself. Nope, no midlife crisis for Mr. Palmer. I hate to admit it, but I'm a little jealous of Mr. Palmer. At least he can be fixed, if he wants to be fixed. A few scissor clips and he'll be brand new. There's nothing that can fix me. What? Mrs. Palmer says when he catches me staring at him. You have nice hair. I swivel in my chair. I guess I lied. My job is 2 perks. Free internet access, and I get to sit in a spinning chair. Huh? He grunts. You have nice hair, I repeat. Have you ever considered wearing it in a different style? You know, I took a risk hiring you. He raises his wrinkled finger close to my face. Everyone in this town told me you were trouble because of your... He trails off and looks away. Because of your father. I complete a sentence in my head. The inside of my mouth fills with the sour metallic taste I've come to know as humiliation. My life can be neatly divided into 2 sections. Before my father made the nightly news and after. For a moment, I allowed myself to imagine what the conversation would sound like if my father weren't my father. Mr. Palmer would probably speak to me like I'm not a stray mutt raiding his garbage can. I'd like to think that I'd have some tact, but no one wastes their tact on me anymore. But then it hits me, the thought that I try to squeeze out of my mind. You wouldn't feel any different inside. I dip my chin to my chest in an attempt to mistake that thought. Sorry, Mr. Palmer, I'm on it. Mr. Palmer doesn't say anything. He just looks up at the green, flea giant shiny banners that were recently hung on the office's wall. Each one of them features Brian Jackson striking some sort of pose. arms crossed over his chest, arms flung above his head in victory, arms pressed out on his side mid-sprint. He's been photoshopped to have perfect skin, but there was no need to alter his assy blonde hair or bright blue eyes. And I know from passing through the halls that his calf muscles are really that large. At the bottom of each giant banner, the words, "Homegrown in Langston, in Kentucky, and Olympic bound," are scrawled in bright black text. The banner doesn't say anything about the first boy from Langston who almost qualifies for the Olympics, but it doesn't have to. As I watch Mr. Palmer study the banner, I know he's thinking about that boy, the first boy. Almost everyone who sees Brian Jackson's sweaty brow and muscular calves can't help but think of his Timothy Jackson, Brian's older brother. And anyone who sees the banner and then sees me will definitely think of Timothy Jackson. Finally, Mr. Palmer peels his eyes away from the banner and turns back to me. He can't look me in the eye, though. He stares over the top of my head as he clears his throat. "Look, Azelle, maybe it would be best if you didn't come in tomorrow. Why don't you take the day off?" I pressed my elbow into the table, wishing I could melt into the gray plastic, into an unfeeling synthetic blend of polyamorous. I feel my skin starting to bruise under the weight of my body, and I silently hum Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. My mind fills with dark and heavy organ notes, and I imagine the organ's keys arranging themselves into the shape of a ladder that leads me to an empty, quiet place. A place away from TMC, away from Mr. Palmer, away from everyone and everything. Mr. Palmer seems to misinterpret my silence as confusion, not complete another mortification. He stretches my hands out in front of him, wringing them out like he just watched them. I inspire that feeling in most people, the desire to wash their hands clean. "As you may know, tomorrow we're going to be making calls on behalf of the city of Langston to try to increase attendance of Saturday's rally for Brian Jackson." Mr. Palmer's voice quivers a bit as he sneaks a quick glance back at the banner, as if Brian Jackson's focused athlete countenance may help him muster the courage to continue. Brian's magic must run off of Mr. Palmer because he finds his voice again. "Brian's coming home for the weekend from training camp, and the city wants everyone to show him a warm welcome. And as much as I know you would like to help, I'm afraid some of our customers might feel uncomfortable if you invited them to the rally because of your father and—" His voice lowers and he continues talking, but he's stumbling over his words and I can't really understand what he's saying. It's something between a mixture of an apology, an explanation, and an indictment. I try not to laugh. Instead of focusing on the absurdity of how I am apparently too unappealing to even operate as a telemarketer, I choose to focus in on Mr. Palmer's word choice of customer. I don't think the people we harass on a daily consider themselves to be customers, but rather victims. And thanks to my dad, I'm pretty good at making everyone feel like they could be a potential victim. Red-faced and flustered, Mr. Palmer walks away from my desk and begins strolling the other rows. He asks Marie to stop chewing gum, and he begs Tony to please refrain from smearing hamburger grease all over the keyboard. Once Mr. Palmer is a safe distance from my desk, I open Smooth Passages again. In the simplest terms, Smooth Passage is a website for people who want to die. There are tons of these websites. Some are fancier than others, some are more niche-oriented for people who have a specific method they prefer, like, say, suffocating, or they're for a certain type of person, like depressed athletes or something like that. I still haven't found one dedicated to the unwanted daughters of psychotic criminals, so for now, Smooth Passages is the place for me. Smooth Passages website is a plain, no flashy or cheesy HTML work. It's plain, black and white, classy. That is, if a website dedicated to suicide can be classy. There are messages, boards, and forums, which I mostly look at. Recently, I've been really interested in this one section called Suicide Partners. The problem with suicide, which most people don't realize, is that it's really hard to follow through. I know. People are always yammering on and on about how suicide is the coward's way out. And I guess it is. I mean, I am giving up, surrendering. One running away from my black hole of future, preventing myself from going into the person I'm terrified of becoming. But just because it's cowardly doesn't guarantee it's going to be easy. The thing is, I'm concerned that my self-preservation instinct is too high. It's like my depressed mind and my very much alive body are in a constant struggle. I worry about my body running out at the last minute with some jerky impulse, and then I'll end up having done the deed only halfway. Nothing scares me more than a failed attempt. The last thing I want is to end up in a wheelchair, eating pulverized food and watching around the clock by some sassy nurse who has a not-so-secret obsession with cheesy reality TV. And that's why lately I've been eyeing the suicide partner section. I guess the way it works is you find someone other sad excuse of a person who lives pretty nearby and you make your final plans with them. It's like pre-pressure suicide, and from what I gather, it's pretty damn effective. Sign me up. I scanned some of the postings. None of them are a good fit for me. Either they're way too far away. Why do so many people in California want to blow their brains out? Isn't living in the ocean supposed to make you happy? Or they're just by the wrong demographic. I really don't want to get mixed up with some adults who are having marital issues. Stressed out soccer moms are not for me. I contemplate composing my own ad, but I'm not really sure what I'd say. Also, nothing seems sadder than reaching out, trying to find a partner, and then getting rejected. I look over my shoulder and see that Mr. Palmer's a few rows away. He's massaging Tina Bart's shoulders. He's always massaging Tina Bart's shoulders. Maybe he isn't as happy with Mr. Palmer as I thought. Mr. Palmer catches me staring at him and shakes his head. I gave him my sweetest grimace, and I pick up the phone and dial the next number on my log. Samuel Porter, who lives on Carvenston Lane. As I'm listening to the familiar ring of the phone, I hear my computer beep. Damn, I'm always forgetting to mute the volume. Laura, the middle-aged lady who works next to me and wears lipstick that's too bright for her jaundiced complexion, raises her eyebrow at me. I shrug. I think the software's updating. I'm after her. She rolls her eyes at me. Laura, apparently, is a human pulse detector. Mr. Samuel Porter doesn't answer his phone. Guess he's not craving pina coladas. I hang up the phone and click back to smooth passages. Looked like it beeped because someone posted a new message in Suicide Partners Forum. It's titled April 7th. I open it. I'll admit, I used to think this idea was stupid. The whole point of killing myself is so that I can be alone forever, so I never understood why I want to do it with someone else. But that's changed now. I'm nervous I'll chicken out at the last minute or something. There are other things too, but I'd rather not get into that here. I only have a few requirements. 1, I don't want to do it with anyone who has kids. That sit is too heavy for me. 2, you can't live more than an hour away from me. I know this might be hard since I live in the middle of nowhere, but for now I'm sticking to that. And 3, we have to do it on April 7th. That date isn't negotiable. Message me for more information. I check Frozen Robot's stats and try not to judge the screen name. But Frozen Robot? Really? I understand that everyone on here is a little bit, okay, a lot emotional, but still, have some dignity. Frozen Robot is apparently a he. He's 17, so only 1 year older than me. That's fine. Oh, and he's from Willis, Kentucky. That's about 15 minutes away. A surge jolts my phone, and I vaguely remember that this is what excitement feels like. Frozen Robot has perfect timing. Maybe, for the first time in my life, I'm lucky. This must be a sign from the universe. If the only time you're lucky is when you're planning your suicide, it's definitely time to go. I read the message again. April 7th. That works for me. Today is March 12th. I can maybe last another month or so, though lately every day is beginning to feel like an eternity. Zell, Mr. Palmer says. What? I say, hardly paying attention to him. He walks so he can stand behind me and taps my computer. I try to minimize the window. Look, I don't care what you do in your free time, but don't bring it to work, okay? His voice sags like an old couch cushion. I'd feel bad for Mr. Palmer if I had any pity to save for anyone except for me. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that Mr. Palmer isn't familiar with smooth passages. He probably thinks I'm looking at some heavy metal fan site or something. Little does Mr. Palmer know, I like my music soft and instrumental. Didn't his parents ever teach him not to bind to stereotypes? Just because I'm a 16-year-old girl with unruly curly hair who wears striped shirts every day doesn't mean I can't celebrate a nice violin solo, a smooth piano concerto. Once Mr. Palmer walks away, I hear Laura scoff. What? I say. Don't you have internet at the house? Laura asks, frowning at me. She's sipping the complimentary coffee, and the plastic mug's rim is stained with her god-awful berry lipstick. Don't you have a coffee maker at home? She shrugs, and just when I think the conversation is over, she says, Work isn't the place to be fishing for dates. Do that on your own time. You're going to get the rest of us in trouble. Right. I look back down at my keyboard. It's no use explaining to Laura that I'm not searching for a date, or at least not that kind of date. I stare at the pieces of cheese crackers that are stuck in the spaces between the 5 and F and G keys. And that's when I decide I'm going to message back Frozen Robot. He and I have a date. April 7th.